Welcome to Financial Aid 101. My name is Jim Selby and I'm the COO for Service to School. If you've ever wondered whether or not you might be eligible for financial aid above and beyond the GI Bill, the answer is probably yes, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Our guest panelists come from three of Service to School's VetLink College Partnership Program. Our partnership program is limited to a select number of colleges and universities that are highly regarded, not only based on their top spots in the college rankings, but more importantly, by their deep commitment to access, success, and affordability. And financial aid is a key element to each of these components. By the end of this webinar, you're going to be more familiar with financial aid terms such as FAFSA, CSS profile, and cost of attendance. You'll also better understand the types of aids that veterans may be eligible for, how to apply, and finally, we're going to bring it all together with tips from the Dean. So we're going to jump right in. I'm thrilled to introduce our panel of experts, starting off with Adam Sapp, Senior Associate Dean and Director of Admissions, Pomona College. Alex D'Andazio, Assistant Director of Admissions, Williams College, and Gail Holt, Dean of Financial Aid at Amherst College. So I'm going to get things started. There's pictures of our panelists. Give you an idea of who we'll be talking with today. And then Adam, could I ask you to give us a start, give us an overview of financial aid and affordability just from a top-down scale?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to start. Thank you for that great introduction, Jim. It's really happy to be with you. First of all, let me just acknowledge the service of those veterans joining, as well as the commitment to those servicemen who might be active duty and currently on contract. We're really excited to have this audience and this opportunity to be able to partner with Service to School to talk about this issue. I think, first of all, big picture, really important to understand that financial aid is a separate process from admissions. You're going to apply for financial aid and you're going to apply for admissions. All of us, as we talk about in our admissions programs, speak to support and mentorship and engagement on campus and dynamic student bodies. One of the things that we also do really well is provide generous financial aid for students, and that extends to veteran students. Little things like a fee waiver, which we're able to support you with. Little things like thinking about housing and family situations. All of the things that we total and call cost of attendance are inclusive of the costs beyond tuition. Many think that financial aid is just the cost of the classes. And at our three institutions and many of our small liberal arts peers who are also VetLink partners think much beyond that when it comes to the financial aid process. Veterans benefits on our campus extend beyond just the cost of tuition. So we know that you've earned generous benefits from the federal government thanks to your service, but our institutions actually do allow you to apply for financial aid beyond that and benefit from things like the Yellow Ribbon program, as well as the ability to use in a very maximum way a Montgomery or post 9/11 bill that you might be benefiting from. Should you choose not to use that, we'll also talk later about what that might mean for your financial aid situation and how you can also be supported. All three of us are need blind, meaning that we do not take your ability to pay into consideration when we make admissions decisions. We don't care whether you have $1,000 in the bank or $1 million in the bank. We admit the best and brightest students, and regardless of their ability to pay, and then we package you for financial aid. That's quite different than most of the 3,500 colleges and universities in this country. The three of us being need blind is a big deal. And the financial aid process is very student-centered, very individualized. You will be taken care of by our financial aid offices for the 4 years or 2 years or 3 years, however long you are on our campus, just like you were taken care of in the admissions process. It's a personalized review to admit students. It's a personalized relationship we develop with students in order to support them financially. Jim?
Hi, everyone. As Jim said, I'm Alex from Williams, and I'm thrilled to be here with you talking about this topic today, too. Adam did a great job of providing us with kind of a general overview of what we think about and talk about when it comes to financial aid and affordability. We're going to spend the next few minutes going over some of these specific terms, some of which Adam already started to cover, just to make sure that you're familiar with the language of financial aid. There's a lot of different terms that are really specific to financial aid that you would have no reason to really know otherwise if you haven't dealt with this process before. And it is important to know exactly what those terms are referring to. So we're going to cover some of the most important ones today. And one big one that Adam just started to talk about is cost of attendance. So cost of attendance is a really specific term that means something very particular in the language of financial aid. You'll hear costs thrown around, right? Price, and you'll see that colleges have how much they would actually charge you to attend their college. This is different than that. Cost of attendance is taking into account more than just the price that the colleges will bill you for. So it's taking into account those things as well, things like tuition, the cost of classes, things like room and board, your housing, and just the food that you'll eat while you're on campus. But also it's taking into account things like books. How much will your textbooks roughly be? And this will be kind of an estimate, but an estimate of how much your books will cost for the academic year. Personal expenses, things like toiletries or other daily kind of expenses that just come up in the course of living. And potentially travel costs. If you're going back and forth to another place that you're calling home over breaks, then that might be incorporated into this cost of attendance as well. So that really comprehensive sense of what is it truly going to cost you to go move to this place and attend this institution. That is the cost of attendance. And cost of attendance can also be specific to an individual. So it might be that those travel expenses are different depending on where you're coming from. It might be that your personal expenses are thought of differently if, let's say, you have children. So they're a little bit dependent on an individual situation, particularly for our institutions. We're able to take into account that kind of nuance. But cost of attendance is really that comprehensive thinking about how much college is going to cost you. Demonstrated need is another term that you'll hear a lot. And this is really related to cost of attendance. So demonstrated need is thinking about how much money do you need individually to be able to afford a particular college. And this is determined based on your financial aid applications. So this is where those terms FAFSA and CSS profile that we'll talk more about, but basically they're two financial aid applications. This is where those become important. So through those applications, you're sharing with us your financial information. And based on that financial information, the financial aid office will determine how much you can pay towards college. Maybe you can pay nothing at all towards college, or you can pay $1,000, or you can pay $10,000. Whatever it is, that number is taken into account and it's subtracted from the cost of attendance. So your cost of attendance, the cost of attendance for an institution minus how much you can pay towards college equals your demonstrated need. Essentially, how much money you need to be able to afford this college. At all of our institutions, we meet 100% of that demonstrated need. And again, that's something that's different for us. We're definitely some of the most generous financial aid programs that exist in the country, but that's kind of how we calculate it, and that's what we're talking about with that term. Adam already mentioned this as well, but we are all need blind as well. And this is a term that you'll also hear from time to time, but it essentially means exactly what Adam said, which is that we're not looking at how much or how little you can pay towards college as part of the admission process. Admission and financial aid or financial need are completely separate for us. There are a good amount of colleges, as Adam also kind of alluded to, that are need aware. And need aware means that they are going to take into account how much you can pay towards college or how little you can pay towards college as part of the admission process. It's one factor in many, but it is something that they're considering as part of the admission process. But as I said, all of the institutions here today are need blind. And with that, I'll hand it over to Gail to go over some other terms.
Thanks, Alex, and I'm sorry to be joining you late, but I'm glad that I'm here now. So I get the privilege of talking to you about the resources that are available, because there's so many important resources and types of financial aid. There's no singular option, which is what is so fantastic about the partnership with financial aid. The first part is the free or the gift money, and that money, it's really important to know what kind of grant and resources schools are giving out, be it need-based or merit-based. So the need is specific to your family's situation or your income situation and other factors, and the merit-based financial aid is based on your talent or other things that are personal in nature. So most of our schools award financial aid specifically based on financial need, so that we can target our resources to your need and make it as accessible as possible. Within those types, in addition to that free money that you do not have to pay back, it's all for you, that's where most institutions, especially at schools like Amherst and Williams and Pomona, are dedicating, probably about 90%, if not more, of the financial aid that you're going to get is going to come in that form. But there are other ways that will help you supplement your financial aid. Potentially, a loan is also a way that you can access a resource that you will pay back after graduation. But typically, there are two different kinds of loans. So sometimes they're subsidized and interest is not paid while you're enrolled in school, and sometimes you do begin to repay the interest prior to leaving school. Work study is also a great way to earn money while you're on a campus and use that money toward personal expenses that you're going to have, as was already mentioned, in terms of being included in your cost of attendance. The work study does not credit your bill, so that's money that's issued directly to you as a student. The other thing, far beyond just the dollars, work study offers a really great way to connect with campus resources and people on campus. So I do encourage students always to explore the options that are available in terms of work study. But that gives you a glimpse at the types of financial aid that are available. And we'll continue on.
Great. So I'm really looking forward to myth or fact. Vast majority of the veterans we work with are first generation students. Those who are not have been out of high school too long to really have any convenient access to a counselor to talk more about financial aid. I graduated from grad school 20 years ago, and I'm still paying off a student loan because I wasn't aware of resources above and beyond tuition assistance or the GI Bill. So these are questions and myths and facts that come up during our conversations. And Adam, one of the more predominant ones we get is that veterans aren't even thinking about going to a private college because the GI Bill is not going to cover those costs. Could you talk a little bit about that for us?
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up, Jim. This is a myth. The GI Bill, all three of our institutions have students who choose to use their veterans benefits through the GI Bill to pay for the cost of attendance and the cost of college. One of the things that is actually pretty fantastic that those who are serving should know is that the GI Bill is actually pretty generous when it comes to the way that it will fund and also what it will fund. So it does not just fund the four-year undergraduate degree. Some of the times you might need it to fund a two-year experience. Sometimes you might need it to even fund a graduate school or professional school experience. But the GI Bill will definitely cover the costs of a private college.
Outstanding. So Alex, yeah, this is another one that I always get on my soapbox. Please at least complete the FAFSA, but there's often a perception, I have the GI Bill, so I don't need to apply for financial aid.
Yes, another great one to bring up, Jim. Thank you. Definitely a myth. It absolutely never hurts to apply for financial aid, even if you're going to use your GI Bill. Whether or not you end up qualifying for it and getting additional financial aid, you may indeed qualify, and you don't want to miss out on that extra funding that you can get. We have a veteran student who came to campus this year and was doing exactly that, was planning on not applying for financial aid because she was deciding to use her GI Bill and felt like she didn't need to apply for financial aid. But once she did, she was able to get even more funding to be able to make sure that she wasn't paying anything out of pocket, and that we were fully funding her experience at Williams. So you absolutely want to make sure you're applying for financial aid and taking advantage of everything that you can at the campus that you ultimately attend.
So Gail, all three schools, abundant resources to make sure that college is indeed affordable. But if I don't fill out that FAFSA, do I have any chance at all? And, what is the CSS profile? And we often get students who get stopped on the one or the other, and they're frustrated because they believe they have to report their parents' income. Could you talk with us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jim. It is a fact that students applying do need to fill out the FAFSA. The FAFSA is a requirement, as Alex just talked about applying for financial aid. But any school that's distributing any federal resources must collect a FAFSA from a student. What is helpful about the profile and is that the profile helps our schools distribute significant resources and target them more directly to students. So it asks for more detail than the FAFSA, and that detail is for the benefit often of students, especially veterans. So it is a myth that you must report parent income. There's a wide range of students that are applying for financial aid. But when you are federally independent due to your service, and with the profile, that service and that eligibility continues. So although some schools, it may appear that they're asking for parent information, just be in touch with the school and find out what the way they would like you to complete that application, either by reporting zeros for the parent information or doing something else that they direct. But you don't necessarily need to provide that parent income, and we want to make sure that you have all the resources possible.
Thanks, Gail. That's very helpful. Adam, you and I have talked about this many times. We've seen each other at conferences in terms of the Montgomery GI Bill and the post 9/11, and sometimes there's a thought, well, I'm eligible for one or the other. It really doesn't matter if I switch over or keep one, stay with the other. Tell us a little bit about that. Is that a myth or a fact?
Yeah, I mean, as it's worded there, that statement is a myth. It does matter and can actually change the benefits that you have access to. Many folks are going to come into the military and they don't quite know the difference. And so sometimes they will sign up for that initial benefit being the Montgomery. And then as they learn more, they will switch it to post 9/11 right before they exit. And it really does make a difference in what it will fund for, particularly as it relates to housing, and could make a difference in terms of aid eligibility, depending upon what it will cover if you are not on the institutional financial aid. So I always encourage veterans, know your options, know the difference, and make sure that whether you're using Montgomery or using post 9/11, that the one you're using is the right one for you.
Outstanding. Alex, my reported income will make me ineligible for financial aid. I often hear this when we have a veteran whose spouse is also on active duty. They've got, what they consider to be, pretty significant amount of income coming in. Can you talk with us a little bit about that as well?
Sure, absolutely. So certainly, as we've mentioned through the financial aid applications and talking about calculating demonstrated need, your income plays a role in determining the amount of financial aid that you will receive. It's absolutely a part of the conversation. But we have all found, and we've discussed this, we've all found that with the majority of our student veterans applying to our institutions, your income by no means disqualifies you for financial aid. It would be highly unlikely that that would be the case. And in fact, the vast majority of our veterans coming to our campuses receive a substantial amount of financial aid. A lot of them are getting close to, if not 100% of their costs covered at our campuses. So of course it's going to be situation specific and it'll always depend on your individual situation, but it's highly likely that your reported income will not disqualify you for financial aid, and in fact that you will qualify for, again, a substantial amount. So you can always contact us if you have individual questions about your situation to get more information, but I would would not make the guess ahead of time that you should not apply for financial aid because you're assuming you won't qualify. Chances are that you will.
Outstanding. And Gail, I'm going to ask you to close out our Mythbusters and talk about family situation. Does it not play a role in someone's financial aid package?
Absolutely. Thank you for letting me do that. This is a myth. The whole purpose of collecting income and expense information is to better understand the individual circumstances of your situation and your family. Maybe you have children, maybe you don't. Maybe you have expenses or helping to support others, parents. Maybe you've had loans in the past, but there are lots of ways that your family situation can absolutely be taken into account. And so that's why it's good to talk with us in financial aid about that.
And Gail, I'm going to ask if I could keep you on the line and go off script. And all of you have mentioned that you meet 100% need. So can you talk about how that is associated with student loans? When you say you're meeting a 100% need, what am I leaving with in terms of debt?
Well, that's going to, vary by individual. We are fortunate at Amherst that when we are creating a financial aid package and we're looking at that cost of attendance and then subtracting the family contribution, the difference at Amherst is offered with grant and then a very modest student employment component, but there isn't loan. Some schools will offer loan as part of a financial aid package, but hopefully it's a modest amount and it's just a starting point. Sometimes by not having the loans in the financial aid package, that gives veterans an additional opportunity to use a resource that has advantages and benefits that are better than a consumer-based loan toward funding their education. But there's lots of resources out there to kind of see what students are graduating with at individual schools in terms of data. And I would always encourage someone to ask, what do veterans graduate with in terms of their loan debt? And if it's somebody's goal to keep that low, then as a financial aid office, we're going to try to work with students to make that happen.
Great. And Adam and Alex, love to hear from your respective schools as well.
Well, Pomona meets 100% of demonstrated need with grants and student work, so we also do not have loans.
Outstanding.
At Williams, we do occasionally offer loans, but it's at a very minimal level. And I'll say 100% of our student veterans on campus right now do not have any loans and are actually 100% of our veterans are paying nothing at all to attend Williams right now. So it's very unlikely that our student veterans will receive any amount of loans.
And as I've learned that, it's just another reason I regret not being aware of the small private liberal arts and sciences colleges that are out there, because 20 years later, I wouldn't still be paying my own student loan. So great to hear, and I appreciate your feedback on that. So one of the things I want to mention before Gail gives us some advice and tips is that financial aid and admissions, they are two different distinct offices on the campus. If you talk with Alex or you talk with Adam, they've got a pretty good understanding of financial aid. And if you talk to Gail, she's got a good understanding of admissions, but it's so nuanced, it's so personalized that when it comes time to talk with someone about admissions, go to the admissions office. When it comes time to talk about financial aid, go to financial aid. And financial aid probably has the most robust telephone budget on the campus because they are talking to parents and students and veterans on a day-to-day basis. That is the life and times of a financial aid office. So I did want to make that distinction clear. And then Gail, if you could, really love to have some helpful tips and advice from the dean.
Thank you. Yeah, my first tip is really we can't wait to get to know you. Certainly my colleagues from admission get to visit you locally in your homes and on where you're located and looking at when you're looking at schools. But I think an important relationship to develop is making sure that you're communicating with financial aid. What is most important to you about your hopes and plans for financing your education? What are your goals? What is your, you're trying to reduce what you need to borrow, or are you willing to borrow to reduce maybe how much time you need to spend working outside of school? We're happy to talk with you about that. We want to be able to answer all your questions and know that it's a complex process. We know that you will have questions and that you don't necessarily come with the support of others as a more traditional population would typically experience. So we're happy to talk with you about that. Where is the veteran certifying official? What office are they located in? Sometimes that person is going to be located in the registrar's office, as it is, I believe, at Williams, but also that person could be in the financial.
She was saying is that you should get to know your certifying official at your institution. This person will be critical. They are the person that is going to communicate with the VA to let the VA know that you are enrolled, and that enrollment form is required in order to disperse funds so that the VA knows that you are actually a student at that school in that semester. So the certifying official becomes very important. Get to know that individual and update them often as you move through the 4 years there. And then, I think one of the things that's really important as we think about the financial aid office, this is an office that is designed to create access to all students. And so you really should see them as your access agent. They are the ones that are working hard to make sure you have access to the full range of support and services offered at the college. So if you want to study abroad, or you want to participate in a summer program, or you need some extra assistance because family circumstances change from year to year, they are the individual, that financial aid officer that you develop that relationship with in these offices is going to be that individual who can walk you through the steps either on the paperwork they need or the supports that are also available at the college or university of your choice. Some need childcare. Some might need access to different kinds of health care or support services for family, or if they happen to have a wounded warrior status and they need some extra kind of support that's going to require an extra expense. There are ways to think about building that into the cost of attendance. And so your financial aid officer is your access agent. So always remember that. The relationship you have with them is key to getting to that graduation day.
Thanks for stepping in, Adam. I know connectivity is a problem up in Massachusetts today, so I do want to make sure we got an opportunity for each of you to talk about your respective schools. You've been great partners, not only from the president on down, but each of you individually, because having access to those of you that are taking time to talk directly to the students is incredibly valuable. And it leads to, our ultimate goal of veterans making informed decisions about where they'll apply and where they eventually attend. So, Adam, love to hear a little bit about Pomona before we sign off.
Thank you so much, Jim, and I want to thank you all for holding on for this 30 minutes. We are right at time, so we're going to do this real quick to be respectful. Pomona is located just west of Los Angeles, 35 miles, east of Los Angeles, near downtown Los Angeles. We're pretty close to the city via train, but we are in our own little city called Claremont. As you may know, LA is the second largest city in the United States. Lots of access to cultural events, as well as lots of Fortune 500 companies in LA, which makes it a great place for internships. We're part of the Claremont Colleges, and so there's 1,600 students at Pomona, but 6,000 students at the Claremont Colleges. As a liberal arts and sciences institution, we offer 48 different majors that you can take at Pomona. You can also cross-register into courses at the other Claremont Colleges. It's an incredibly rich resource for you as a student. We have a significant support for our military and veteran veteran students, and we're always excited to have them on campus. Our faculty are excited to work with you. Other students are excited to meet you. We have a career services office that is equally eager to support you with internships and summer research, as well as with career planning. Our veterans are wildly successful. They do some incredible things, and they are a small group at Pomona. They're not an enormous group, as with any institution our size. Everyone's kind of in a smaller group, but the veterans, they all know each other. They get along very well. They're in a mentorship organization together. Lots of activities and support services available.
Outstanding. Yep. Alex, love to hear about Williams.
Yes, absolutely. I'll also be mindful of our time here and just give a quick overview, but you can see some more here on the slide. Williams College is a small liberal arts college, as are my peers here, located in Western Massachusetts. We have 2,200 undergraduate students. And as a liberal arts college, there's a strong focus on giving students freedom and flexibility in your academic experience. So really allowing students to take the classes that they most want to take and to really be able to shape your particular path around your interests. There are a low number of requirements that really allow students to do what they most want to do. We have a really unique feature called tutorial classes, which are classes with 2 students and 1 professor, and that is the entire class. So pretty much as small as you can get, a really different kind of way to do class as well that's based on kind of academic dialogue and exchange, but a way to really dive in deep with a supportive and collaborative environment right at your feet. We have a really tight-knit community in general, small class sizes, average of 13. That's true of the transfer and veteran community as well, but true more broadly. Williams is just a place where there is an incredible amount of warmth, support, and resources to really make sure that students are getting what they need and able to do things that they never dreamed of before. There's just a ton that really allows you to make that happen. For the transfer and veteran community specifically, we have 22 transfer and veteran students on campus. We offer a lot of individualization and flexibility with that community as well as what I've said already as far as housing. I mentioned this in the chat, but we offer campus-owned off-campus housing as a potential option, but a lot of students live on campus as well. We offer flexibility with transferable credit so that you can kind of choose how much transferable credit you want to bring in and be able to kind of decide and have some flexibility in conjunction with a review process by our registrar's office. We have a dean of transfer and veteran students on campus to make sure that you have somebody to connect to as well. And I'll just finish off with an upcoming opportunity happening on Friday, October 30th. We're hosting a virtual transfer and veteran open house that I'd encourage you all to sign up for if you're curious to learn even more about Williams.
I've had an opportunity to visit student veterans at Amherst. The first time I was there was a student from Smith walking on the campus. I said, "What are you doing?" And she was taking advantage of the 5 college consortium. So Amherst, along with Smith College and 3 other schools there in Massachusetts, belong to a consortium where they provide consistent travel between and among all the schools. So if there's a class you want to take at one of those 5 colleges, you take that as part of the open curriculum. Some other things that I thought stood out was, there's this perception if you're going to a liberal arts and sciences college, you're not going to get the chance to play field hockey or football or anything like that. I learned that Williams and Amherst have a pretty long-standing football rivalry. When I was there was a field hockey game going on, so that was an eye-opener for me. Lexi Hurd is our point of contact at Amherst, so it's disappointing that connectivity didn't allow Gail to talk specifically about Amherst, but contact us and we'll get you connected directly to Lexi Hurd to learn more about that.
Yes. And Jim, I would just say one thing.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something to do right after this session today, click on the quick cost calculator. All 3 of us use the My Intuition. Run it. It's 6 questions in 3 minutes, and you'll learn a little bit about the possibility of how much money you might be eligible for should you use our own institutional money and not use your veterans benefits if you want to save those and use institutional funds. It's a great tool. It's real quick. It gives you a great ballpark figure.
Outstanding.
And I'll just mention alongside that too, we are all happy to hear from students. So please, that's why our contact information is here. Please feel free to reach out to any of us if you're interested in learning more about our institutions. We all set up time, individual phone calls or anything like that. So we're happy to hear from you, happy to help with your questions.
I definitely want to leave this up long enough for you to do a screenshot, but easy to get a hold of any of us. Contact at serviceschool.org. We'll get you to the right person. Our next session, we're going to talk about finding the right fit. So is it a large public comprehensive research, and is it a small private liberal arts? Is it, just something different, very different sizes and fits for everybody. So we'll be talking about that on October 22nd. But thanks for everybody. Appreciate your time. I'm confident that all of you learned something from this. I practiced it 4 or 5 times, and I learned something just hearing from our panelists again today. So Alex, Adam, thanks for your expertise, and more importantly, thanks for all you've been doing for our veterans over the past several years.